Hi guys, it's either welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm a lawyer that doesn't practice. I'm a mid-level, government bureaucrat, and I'm just someone who moonlights in creativity. Today I will be reviewing episode 10 of season 13 of Married at First Sight Houston. I am really late with this review. Today is Monday, the episode came on Wednesday. I did some traveling over the weekend. I went to New York. My sincerest apologies for the delay. Never say never, but hopefully I can be on time, for the rest of the season. I'm gonna try to do that. It's either Thursday or Friday uploads at the latest, but yeah, my apologies. So for this episode, things got really real. And I wanna focus on the two couples that things maybe were the realest, one a lot more severe than the other. So I'm gonna go out of order for the couples, then kind of how they appeared on the episode. I'm gonna start with Brett and Ryan. I'm gonna go to Gil and Myrla. I'm gonna do Johnny and Bao. I'm gonna do Zack and Michaela. And then I'm gonna do Rachel and Jose. And it kind of makes sense as we're like, the level of severity is rising with each couple. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on Brett and Ryan. Probably not gonna spend a whole bunch of time on Gil and Myrla because the juicier couples are at the end and I don't want this video to be 2 hours long, right? So let's get into it. Brett and Ryan. The long and short of Brett and Ryan is Ryan is not into Brett. Brett is into Ryan. Brett is absolutely catching feelings. Brett absolutely feels away, understandably. Her husband doesn't even really like her. But the fact of the matter is, Ryan is not into Brett. And so one of the experts, she came to kind of give them couples counseling. And essentially Brett is waiting on like this fairy tale feeling. He wants to literally come in the house every day and just want to make out with his wife. And it seems kind of to me he has unrealistic expectations of kind of how he's supposed to feel as a married man. I think he is expecting fireworks 24/7, and now that he's gotten married, they've gotten settled, he's not feeling fireworks. And then he's also really not doing much to facilitate feelings from his end. He's just kind of like a passive participant. So come decision day, Brett's feelings are gonna be hurt. I don't think there's anything she can do, and I don't think there's anything that Ryan is willing to do for them to kind of meet in the middle. I'm not gonna say Ryan is a bad guy, but you did sign up to be married, so the ideal situation would be for you to maybe try a little bit harder to at least fall into like with your partner. I know you can't plan these things, but like I've said in previous episodes with other couples, you can talk to the experts to try to figure out what you can be doing to kind of fall into like, or what could help facilitate you falling into like, because yes, attraction is a big thing in relationships, but attraction also doesn't have to be there depending on, someone's personality or like how they present. And so, one part of me is like, hey, I get it, you're not into her. But then the other part of me is you signed up to be married. And so I'm really gonna need for you to do everything that you need to do to make it work, because you have so much to say about everybody else's relationships, i.e. in this episode at the end, which he wasn't wrong when he was getting on Jose about Rachel calling him another man's name, basically calling him Johnny's name. He had a lot of great advice to give, in his like confessionals when he was just talking to the camera. So what it means when it applies to other couples. Apply some of that advice to yourself. Let me see if there's anything I really missed with them. Brian did decide to leave the house for a bit, I guess to clear his head. And so they kind of cut to Brett making breakfast, looking kind of alone and dejected. And then Ryan walks in, and I guess he had been, I think I've already said this, but he had been staying at his house, and he walked in and they kind of had a conversation. Brett was just kind of like, so, are you feeling better? And he was like, yeah, I feel better. And basically, it just got to the point where he was like, listen, if I'm seeming a little distant, please, pull me out of it. Please call me out on my ish. And I get what Brett's saying. Brett is like, well, why should I have to pull you out? You're an adult. You should be able to pull yourself out. But she was like, okay, I'll do that. And that's kind of how they ended Brett's confessionals. When she met up with some of the ladies, she basically feels rejected. And I mean, is she not being rejected? Like, those feelings are absolutely valid because that is what's happening with Ryan. So, like I said from the beginning, if you go to any of my reviews, any one of my reviews, I've been telling y'all that Ryan is not into Brett. If you go to my Twitter, I think it's Kiosha.Alex. I'll link it somewhere here. I've been saying that Ryan is not into Brett. And it's really coming into fruition. If it wasn't clear before, it is very clear now. So that's that on them. Now let's move to Gil and Myrla. This episode, mainly for them, the biggest part was Gil needing to feel like his wife is attracted to him. And towards the end of the episode, we did see the one thing that Gil had been asking for outside of whatever else he required of Myrla. The main thing he was asking for was affection in the form of a kiss. And he did get that, right? So that's kind of the main thing with this couple. The couples gave them games and kind of assignments to facilitate closeness, because when the expert came to the house, she asked them how they both felt, where they were with intimacy, and Gil was just kind of laying it all out there like, listen, I'm at about a 5. If things don't progress, when decision day comes, I'm probably not going to choose to stay married. And at this point, it's like, we get it. Like, you say that every time you get in front of an expert, or you say that every time you're talking to Myrla when you're talking about decision day. Trust me, Myrla knows. And I'm pretty sure that's why she went ahead and stepped it up and maybe skipped past her normal time frame for kissing someone, and she went ahead and made that move. But that was basically what this episode was about with them. They had an exercise where they had to cuddle. They had an exercise where they kind of had to get forehead to forehead and look in each other's eyes and like say what they liked about each other. And I thought those were like really great exercises. It's like, maybe I should use some of those exercises in our relationship, just because. Oh, one thing that was interesting, Gil did say to Myrla while the expert was there, Gil was like, you think kissing is the same, you think kissing is on the same level as sex? And Myrla was like, yes, I do. And that is just so interesting. Kissing is not sex. They're not even remotely the same. Now, one can, and likely in a lot of the time does lead to the other. But kissing is not sex, so that was very interesting. I know they mentioned some of Myrla's previous relationships and maybe, cheating and this and that. And so to me, it just kind of sounds like Myrla has some hangups. But I will say that she seems to be trying. I am someone who can say I can admit when I'm wrong. And I have been talking shit about this couple kind of from the beginning. It kind of started to change a little bit earlier on, but then I flipped back and I was like, no, they're not going to make it. With Myrla taking this huge step after saying she wasn't going to do this and she wasn't going to do this and she wasn't going to do this, with her taking that huge step and kissing Gil twice, they might have a chance. Because basically, Gil said, I just want a kiss. I need to know that you are attracted to me. And that, for me, will tell me that you are attracted to me. He was like, you can't tell me that you want to be married to me and have kids with me and grow old with me if you won't even kiss me. So she made that step. I'm proud of you, Myrla girl. I really am. You have surprised me. You have surprised my friends. And if there is one couple that's going to make it, I'm actually rooting for y'all. Myrla has a strong personality, but Gil doesn't seem to mind. So if they can make it work, I want them to make it work. I was really proud of her. So yeah, that's that on them. Now let's go to Bao and Johnny. I'm just moving through these couples because I got to get through these last ones, honey. The episode opens with them playing one of the games, or not one of the games, but like answering some of the questions that the experts sent them, I guess for them to build closeness and intimacy. And it opened up kind of heavy, you know. Johnny asked Bao what her biggest insecurity was, and Bao always seems pretty open, and she seems very willing to be vulnerable, as we saw in this episode. And I think that's refreshing. I really like that about Bao. Showering aside, I know I had joked and laughed on her and made that a big thing, because that is a big thing to me. But she really wants to make this marriage work. And you can tell. And so I like that. I like that she is determined. And I also like, lately, she's really been standing up for herself. And lately, she has been holding Johnny to the fire. So she has a lot more patience than I would say I have or that I'm capable of. But I admire that, because she said she was going to get married at first sight. She said she was going to give it her all. And she's doing those exact things. But basically, Bao's thing, or Bao's, one of her biggest insecurities, is just kind of feeling like she doesn't measure up, or that she's not enough. Being really hard on herself and just nothing ever being enough, right? And then she also mentioned like her biggest shame was growing up poor and living in a trailer and being really ashamed about that. And then her dad was an alcoholic. And I mean, she just laid it out. And I was like, honey, the fact that you're able to just kind of say all of that and lay it out on the line and say how things made you feel and the effect that they've had on you. She is really emotionally intelligent. And I like people who are emotionally intelligent. I want to be their friends. Like, I'm becoming a Bao fan again. If you watch my previous reviews, I was team Bao all the way. The shower thing, I'm not gonna lie, it threw me off a little bit. But let me not yuck her yum, you know? That's that's between her and Johnny, okay? And the doctor came over, and she was at, is it Viviana, Dr. Viviana? She was really impressed with them and their progress and where they've come. I'll say from the last episode to this episode, and maybe it's just because of how this episode was edited, it seems like Johnny is trying. He didn't really fly off the deep end. He was pretty tame this episode. Like I said, it could be how he was edited, but they make it seem like he's really putting in effort to calm down and to really give Bao a chance. The doctor asked them, you know, have you guys kind of been testing each other? Have you guys been giving each other small little tests just to kind of see? And Johnny was like, absolutely. I do it all the time. I was testing her just a few moments ago when we were making up the bed. And he didn't say, and she failed terribly, but he basically was like, yeah, I'd give you a 5 on the test. So she basically failed. But that's just her personality. She just gets so down in the weeds with things. She's very focused on details. I am too, and maybe some of the other stuff kind of flies away if she doesn't deem it as an important detail. I can relate. I really can relate. It being like really intense and super focused, God, can I relate. And it just so happens, you know, I happen to find a guy who's really patient, who just kind of like, okay, girl, whatever. Do what you need to do. I'll be over here chilling, right? Johnny did say he likes doing things together with Bao, so he likes it when they cook. And I was like, okay, we're getting somewhere. So, and I guess that's why he was so annoyed with her with making the bed, because he likes doing things together, but then he ended up doing it alone. I will say, and I've said this before, Johnny is a lustful little thing. And I know maybe it's a little too early for love, and so maybe he's falling back on what he thinks he needs to be able to push the relationship forward on his end. But he really is coming off like a horn dog. Now, Bao is a grown-ass woman, and Bao was definitely letting him know how often she would like to have sex and how she would like to progress past vanilla sex in so many words. And I was like, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll see if Mr. Johnny can keep up. Oh, they played like little sexy games, and they had little die that they would roll, and whatever the die landed on, they would have to do a thing. Bao licked Johnny's belly button. So, I mean, they were really getting into the things and really getting close in that regard. So I guess the first half of the show was like emotional intimacy maybe, and then the second half for them was like physical intimacy and like building on that. So, I wasn't mad at it. And now let's go to Zack and Michaela. The behavior that I see from Zack and the behavior that I see from Michaela, I'm trying not to attack them personally because I don't know them personally. I just know what Lifetime is showing us. So I'm going to try to detach their behaviors the best I can. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, but I'm going to try. Michaela's behavior, especially what we saw initially, seems to be very vindictive. Very manipulative and just straight up mean, right? Zack's behavior, I'm starting to see, he exhibits victimism a lot. He lacks self-awareness. Michaela too. Michaela's behaviors lack self-awareness. Zack's behaviors, they lack self-awareness, and I'm not even gonna say they, and he lacks accountability. He also is unable to let things go, which when you combine that with somebody as hot-headed as Michaela, I mean, it's just bound to explode. I know I keep saying this, but I said this from the beginning. They are a volatile couple, and they have proved to be such, right? So let's get into it. The doc wanted them to talk about intimacy. She came through Dr. Viviana. Michaela said she was at about 50% because of kind of everything that had happened between her and Zack. And I almost kind of feel like I owe Michaela an apology, even though I think her behavior has been disgusting. I also think they weren't showing what Zack was doing to her, maybe to fan the flame, because we're starting to see he doesn't let things go. So if when that first blow up happened, if she did apologize and she kept apologizing and he kept throwing it back in her face that she's never gonna be this is just how she is and he can't do it, I can see how you then become frustrated and then you just rage, you know what I'm saying? So I may owe her a bit of an apology. Still not excusing her behavior, but yeah, Zack's a lot. And then the same question was kind of thrown at Zack, do you trust Michaela? And Zack was like, no, I'm scared that in any moment she's just gonna blow up. The doctor did say, like, because Zack said he's scarred from Michaela's reactions. And the doctor was like, well, are you scarred, or, what is it? Because that's a really heavy word to say. And basically what the doc thinks is what I've been saying, y'all, that he is scared of commitment, or that he shows kind of a lack of commitment, because when anything happens, anything that shows Zack a sliver of maybe a blow up in the past that happens, he just completely detaches and pulls away. And maybe if you're just dating people, you're meeting people for drinks, okay, but like, you are married to this woman, so you know, if you're gonna make it work, make it work. If you're not, then don't. But you know, in order for y'all to move forward, in order for this couple to move forward, he is going to have to let things go. He just sounds like the biggest child and the biggest goof, because it's like episode after episode, for the past 3 episodes, he's been caught up on the same thing. And then he gets himself so frazzled. I can see, I think he mentioned anxiety. I can see that. He just works himself up. And once he has convinced himself that something is true, it's true. And that's what's happening with him and Michaela and his thoughts about Michaela. He's convinced himself that she's some wicked witch of the West, and now he can't move past it. I'm not saying she might not have wicked witch of the West tendencies, but they are married and they should really be trying. And I can say that Michaela has been trying. She has been calm. I will give her that. She realized that she was wrong. She realized that her behavior was wrong, and she realized how it was affecting Zack. So she pivoted. Is that going to be permanent? I don't know. But I can say from what I've been seeing, she is trying. Zack needs to pull his weight as well. And yeah, the doctor was like, so, I mean, you're putting all of this on her. You're scarred and you can't get past this, but have you been perfect? And he was like, well, no, I haven't. Okay, then, so why do you expect it from her? And I just thought that was good for her to say. He needed to be hit with that. Like, have you been perfect? And she gave good advice. She basically was like, y'all are gonna have to give each other the benefit of the doubt moving forward, and y'all are gonna have to verbalize what your boundaries are so the other person knows, right? Then after the doctor left, like I said, Zack just starts spazzing out, living comfortably in his victimhood.
Like, I just don't know what I'm doing, and I can't help it, and this is how I am, and I just can't do this.
It's like, what is it that you cannot do? Can you, do you not want to do this marriage thing anymore? Like, what is it specifically that you cannot do? He's another one. Like, if you want help, you need to talk to these experts and get to the bottom of why you are like why you are. You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand that he's probably had situations that were very toxic, and when he saw those things in Michaela, it alerted his red flags, and he automatically labeled Michaela as those things. But like I said, they're married. Either give it your all in these 6 or 8 weeks, or don't do it at all. You know what I'm saying? But Zack is gonna have to learn how to get over himself. He really is. Otherwise, not only is he not gonna be able to stay married to Michaela, he's not gonna be able to marry anybody. His expectations seem to be unreasonable. He expects you to be perfect. And he said that about his previous girlfriends and why he hasn't been in love, because he has this list, this long, exhaustive list, and you're starting to see it. It's like, even though Michaela has been doing a better job, he sees none of it. He only sees what has happened. And if he cannot move past that, unfortunately, they're not gonna make it. Do I think that's the only reason they're not gonna make it? No, because I haven't forgotten about Miss Firecracker. She's in there somewhere. I just think they're very volatile. And at the end of the day, I don't think they're gonna make it. Let me see if there's anything that I missed with them. They had a pool date. That was cute. They did some more questions. They did like some blind truth things. And, you know, they asked, what was the first thing that attracted you to me? What are you sorry for? And I thought they really got down into some things. Like, Michaela was like, I'm sorry for how I handled things, right? I was like, okay, Michaela. And I'm sorry for not being able to express myself. And then the question comes up, like, if there was one thing you could change about me, what would you change? And Michaela told Zack, you know, basically how long you hold grudges. Again, right on point, Michaela girl. They talked about that. There were a lot more questions, but the main one that stuck with me was, do you see a future together? And Zack couldn't really answer. Zack could not answer at all. He just fumbled and stumbled. You know, he said that it's doubtful, but he's holding out hope. Why would you say that? That doesn't help Michaela at all. If anything, that contributes to maybe Michaela shutting down a little further down the road, because you constantly say that it's not going to work. At some point, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And, you know, Michaela, she says she feels helpless. And I understand. I absolutely understand that. That man seems impossible. He really does. Yes, she has a temper. But like I said, we've seen her make progress. He seems to be regressing. We'll see what happens the next episode and for the rest of the season, but I just think they're a little too volatile to really make it work long term. Now let's get to Rachel and Jose, because I have some things to get off of my chest. So they sat down with Dr. Viviana, right? And they do this thing that I hate that they do. They do the "we're so happy." What did I say from the beginning? They kept saying they had so much in common, that they're so happy they were matched up together, doing the goo goo gaga stuff. What did I say? Think about a literary tale, right? This was foreshadowing. They had been foreshadowing this big blow up between these two. Put my tissue down. They had been foreshadowing this big blow up between these two since the first episode, right? Because it's TV. They have to build you up to something. So it was just so much of, I love you so much. I love you so much. You're so great. We have so much in common. Which was only really foreshadowing the downfall. They don't have much in common. They don't love each other, despite the bull-ish they tried to say last week. And they're not very incompatible, or they're not very compatible, excuse me. Actually, they're quite incompatible. And we saw that this episode. So she asked about physical connection. It got really, really awkward. She asked them about sex and what they enjoyed most about sex, and it was crickets. It was so awkward. They both were like children. It was so awkward. The doctor asked where they are with trust. Again, lies, fairy tales, and fallacies. Rachel, I trust him 100%. Jose, yeah, I trust her. I have the key to her phone. Okay. So I just kept writing down they were not truthful at all. They just kept lying, and they just kept trying to hold up this perfect facade, which promptly broke because Rachel called Jose another man's name. We didn't know it at the moment. She called him Johnny's name, but we didn't know this until the end of the episode. So she called him another man's name. They cut to a scene where they weren't officially recording. Production was talking to the both of them. Jose was cussing Rachel out like a dog. He was cussing her out like a motherfucker on the streets. Like, one thing I will say, me personally in my life, if I'm gonna kind of relate this, anybody that I say that I love or I care about, or any friends or anybody who I say that I care about, I won't curse you out. Period, point blank. There's a lot of vocabulary that I can use, that I can pull on. I won't curse you out. If I need some time, I will tell you that I need some time, right? And I'll take it. Now, if it's somebody on the street, that's different. You can get your ass cussed out. You know what I'm saying? Like, depending on the situation, depending on what's happening. I'm not going to treat someone that I care about like I would somebody on the street. Somebody tried to break into my house, you know, I'm coming at you. You know, things like that, as opposed to somebody that you say you care about. So he talked to her like a dog. What did he say? He was saying, get out, you need to go. I mean, he was cursing her out. I wish I could insert stuff. because, you know, I'm a lawyer, I don't practice, I still know what it is, right? I still know the law generally. Yes, there's fair use with regards to copyright, and yes, people do insert clips into their videos. I'm not going to, because I know how these things really work. And just saying fair use doesn't necessarily mean something is fair use with regards to your YouTube videos, right? And copyright. That's that. So, but I wish I could insert it. He talked to her like a dog, and then I guess she took a step out. Maybe she went to kind of cool off. She didn't take her phone. She didn't take her keys. She didn't do any of that. Do you know this shrimp of a man locked her out of the apartment? He locked his wife out of the apartment. He put the deadbolt lock on the apartment door. So she can't get in. She comes back, she can't get in. She's banging on other people's doors. She can't get in. I'm like, well, where does she sleep? So then they cut to the next day, and she's like telling him, like, this was unacceptable. Like, why would you do this? And he just had the most nonchalant attitude. People like Jose are dangerous. Jose is very vindictive. He's very vengeful. I can say I have a bit of that in my spirit, but I work really hard to not be that way, like to not be a tit for tat person, to not have to get my lick back. You know what I'm saying? I work really hard not to be that person. It's clear that Jose gives zero fucks. You know what I'm saying? Like, she called him somebody else's name. He decided to lock her out of the house. Imagine how this escalates, right? She pisses him off one day because maybe she spent $50 too much. Well, if he gets his way with the account and they have joint accounts, he could completely decide to lock her out. You see how it escalates? He can completely decide to freeze her funds. You see how that escalates to kind of where this gets abusive, and that was abusive, everything that happened, what we saw. But if I were Rachel, if she decides to stay married to this man, if she doesn't do anything else, keep your fucking bank account separate. Listen to his mama. His stepmama told her, you keep your account separate. Don't you let him control you. His stepmama knew. Hey guys, I'm in the car. I'm getting ready to go into the chiropractor. And there was something that I remembered that I did not say that is really important with regards to Jose and Rachel. I did not say that it is okay to be mad at someone calling you someone else's name. It's okay for your feelings to be hurt, right? But that reaction was not okay. Maybe if it were during a passionate session of lovemaking, if she called him what he knew to be her ex's name, okay, you can be upset. Still not to the level of locking your wife out of the house, but you could be really mad. But what happened here was she had known Jose for, at this point, almost 4 weeks. And she called him someone else's name. She called him Johnny's name. She didn't know him for 2 months, 6 months, 8 months, a year. She's known this man for almost a month. You're bound to slip up and say somebody else's name. I'm so bad with names that if I can help it, I don't say names at all, because I remember people's names, but my mind is so over the place all of the time. I'm waiting on a possible ADHD diagnosis that it's likely that I'm gonna call you somebody else's name. So I try not to do that. And it's just a slip of the tongue, you know, nothing behind it. So in this case, like, for him to react like that, it's completely out of line. He's a psycho, and she needs to run for the fucking hills. He wants her to have a joint bank account. He wants her to move into his house. She'd be a fool to move into that man's house. He locked her out of an apartment that they didn't even own together, that production gave them. He locked her out of an apartment that production gave them to live in. He kicked her out of an apartment that production gave them to live in. She'd be a psycho to move in with him in his house. She'd be insane because he is a vindictive little rat, vindictive little mouse. And that's all I wanted to pop in and say, right? It just hit me as I was getting ready to go in. I was like, wait, I think I left something out. And I already know somebody gonna be in the comments. But I mean, she did call him somebody else's name, fair enough. But the reaction doesn't match what she did. If I walk up to you and I accidentally step on your shoe, please don't shoot me. If you shoot me, if you pull out a gun and shoot me, the reaction is disproportionate to what I did to you. If I walk up to you and I slap you and you slap me back, well, those are proportionate, right? That's equal. If I call you somebody else's name that is on the same damn cast as us, don't lock me out of the house. He's a psycho. That's it. Okay, bye. But all of that aside, like, she tried to confront him and he was just stonewalling her. He was being so obnoxious. I'm a pacifist, but my pacifist self wanted to judo chop him in his shit. I mean, he was so rude. He was so nasty. And I just don't know how Rachel has been able to put up with that. Yeah, he's never shown that side that we saw in the last episode, but he's been, you know, dropping breadcrumbs along the way. We kind of knew this. Like, the way he talked to her, the vitriol that he had in that one clip with the producer, Jose, if you listen to my last episode, disclaimer, you cannot identify someone's sexuality by how they present, right? You only really know someone's sexuality, you know, based on what they tell you, right? And so what I'm about to say is completely wrong. I'm wrong. It's awful. But as I've said in previous episodes, he's coming off, to me, he seems like he is into men. And it reaffirmed it for me even more this episode, because I get the vibe that, like, just generally, like, not even dating wise, Jose does not like women. Like, even if we were talking about in a workplace, in general terms, he doesn't seem to like women. When he was talking about his ex, how he never loved her kids and everything, he just seemed to have this disdain in his voice, on his face. And it all came out and it all came to the head with Rachel. It's like, maybe you enjoy having sex with women, but you don't actually like women. And I don't know if I'm getting this out correctly, and maybe I'll have to come back and think about it and then say it again. I don't know, but sexuality aside, Jose, to me, it seems like he doesn't like women. What person, what man locks his wife out of the house? She didn't have her phone, she didn't have her keys, and I don't care what he said. Oh, I was tired, I had to go to work, I just decided to go to sleep and I locked the door because I locked my things up. You are a vindictive little man. And honestly, I know this is TV, but like, he did her so dirty. Like, I don't ever want that man to find happiness. I mean, it was so awful. It was so nasty. So yeah, he locked her out of the house and she confronts him. He stonewalls her. Just basically pays her dust. So she has enough and she tells him, okay, I'm gonna leave. Do I think this was the right thing for her to do? No. But she did it. We're here, you know. Producer tells her, hey, do you really want to end it like this? So she goes back in and she brings out a note, something that she had written 2 weeks ago. And now it starts to come out how she keeps the list. I don't know if y'all remember early on, she keeps a list, but she doesn't say anything. Now it comes out how she keeps a list, but she doesn't verbalize things. So she's reading off of her list, telling him how he has made her feel basically worthless, because he's so controlling. He doesn't listen to anything she says, and basically his word is gold, right? And so she's telling him all of this, and all of these things are valid. I just wish she would have said them as she was feeling them, because now it kind of feels like she's just throwing stuff at the wall to make something stick, which I don't think she was. I think these are genuine things that she was feeling at the time, but because she didn't say them, it just kind of seems like she was trying to get back at Jose and trying to chop him down a little bit. Which he didn't need help being chopped down. Like, he literally shot himself in the foot. Everybody who was watching can see Jose for who he is and what he meant by locking her out. And if you think anything different, if you think he didn't do that on purpose, you just haven't lived long enough. And that's what I'll say. But basically, he kept just blaming everything on Rachel. Basically saying, you gave up, you walked away, you quit, you left the house. What was I supposed to do? Like, taking no accountability. He's an adult, taking no accountability for anything. You locked your partner, your spouse, out of the house. She didn't have her phone. She didn't have her key. Where did she go? I'm guessing production looked out for her for the night. Like, I want to say some words. I really want to say some words about Jose. You know, one that specifically starts with an uppercase B. But I'm going to try to keep it clean. I don't know what this means for them, but I know if it were me, is Rachel gonna forgive him? She probably is. Should she trust him? No. If they decide to stay married after this show, she needs to continue working, and she needs to continue having her own account. If she lets this man control her life, he will ruin her. He will ruin her. Anytime he gets upset, he's gonna act out just like he did with locking her outside the door. And it's gonna be severe, just like what happened when he locked her out of the house. I just cannot believe that happened. Jose is bad news. I don't care what anyone says. And, you know, to me, there are no redeeming qualities, because we saw this from the beginning, this whole perfect act. And I said this from the beginning. Rachel was never going to be enough for Jose, because while Rachel is beautiful, according to his list, she's not perfect, right? And it just all happened to come out in a really nasty way. But I am glad that the masks are off. I'm glad the facade has failed, and hopefully we can get a little more realness out of these two. I like how she stood up for herself. I like how she finally did that. The timing was, but I do like that she stood up for herself. I like that she stood her ground. So we'll see, right? Let's go to kind of like, I guess they had like group outings, kind of. The ladies met up to like smash things. The men met up to play golf. Rachel immediately tells them what's been happening, how he locked her out, and everybody's just like, oh my God, you know, what? And then Jose goes to meet with the guys, or they all go to meet together, and Jose starts bringing up the scenario and framing it in a way where he didn't lock her out, leaving just everything out. Basically playing victim, not taking any accountability. Those men tore him up. He thought his friends were gonna have his back. Those men tore him. Gil told him, everybody was like, wait, what, bro? You locked your wife? You locked your wife out of the house? Gil was like, did you call her? Did you see if she was coming home? Like, what happened? Like, he was like, no, but they was like, no, something's not right. What did you do? What you had to, you're leaving stuff out, right? So I appreciate that they didn't let him off the hook. You know, I appreciate that they made him stand in it. And hopefully they continue to hold him accountable. Who do I feel bad for in this episode? I feel bad for Brett. I kind of feel bad for Bao. Hopefully Johnny is getting it together. But the person who I really feel awful for is Rachel, because she married a little man demon. She married a little demon. It's always those little people. They're so feisty. I feel bad for her. I really, 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 really do. Like I said, she has the patience of Job. Or maybe I said that on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter, guys. Because I basically live tweet the whole episode. I'm just talking all types of ish. But it's been insane. This was an insane episode. I'm really disappointed at how things went down with regards to this last couple, but I'm not surprised. And, we'll see what we have coming up next week. Thank you if you made it this far. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for sticking around. Please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much. Bye.